Hello and welcome. You're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review. And over the week, there were different issues, and we'll be talking about those issues with me, Brahana Tadasa, and my colleague right here is, of course, Asrat Addisu. Really good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes.
And as you said, we have had major issues over the week, and we will discuss upon them.
Nice. What will be the topics to talk on then? Just remind us the major issues we had at hand.
Over the week, we have had major issues, and we are going to prioritize them accordingly. So the visit paid by the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to two European nations, Italy and France, comes the first one. Though the visit was paid to the two nations in particular, it has had, meaningful relations with the European Union in general. So the next one is, of course, the Ethiopia-Morocco relation, and the other is the Ethiopia-Saudi collaboration. And then we will concentrate on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefing about the talks held between Mayor of Addis Ababa and the chairperson of the African Union Commission.
Nice.
Yeah.
While discussing this, we'll have some more issues as well when we just check the time. Let's begin from the Prime Minister's EU visit. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, had a wonderful time, especially visiting France and Italy. And it's taken as opening a very new avenue for strengthening Ethiopian ties with these European nations. And that is according to Bilene Siyum. By the way, her name is Bilene Siyum, and she's the press secretary of the Office of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And she was mentioning the Prime Minister's visit to those France and Italy. We were just checking the whole week, mostly the end of the week. We saw this visit. And Bilene Siyum, in her interview, said that in France, the Prime Minister Abiy, met with President Emmanuel Macron, and both leaders emphasized their commitment to enhancing the bilateral relations. And there was also, of course, Giorgia Meloni, of the Prime Minister of Italy. And that, of course, was one of the wonderful relations we had over the week. They held, by the way, this discussion with Petro Salini. That's a very famous name in Ethiopia because we know this construction company building many things. Yeah. And that was also one of the discussions we had. And, of course, Pope Leo the 14th, the very new Pope and Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, had a visit and discussion with Pope Leo XIV, mostly cementing Ethiopia's relations with the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, you're right. As the press secretary of the Office of the Prime Minister said, these relations, this visit is that the Prime Minister has paid to the European nations, as she said, has opened doors for closer relations. There were relations that has stayed for so long and so forth, yet that kind of relation should be, awakened, alerted at a time. So what the Premier did was, awakening, giving life, bringing them back. So, the Ethiopian reform government has paid due attention to many areas, to many aspects, and we can mention them as we have been mentioning them. Right. So diplomacy stands one of them, and that's the first I can say. Yeah. So the healthy diplomacy that Ethiopia has had with immediate neighboring countries, with the countries in Africa, and of course with countries abroad, overseas, is becoming more and more focused on the healthy ties between and among nations. So these visitors, as you mentioned, were are very healthy, are very important. And very successful, as can be concluded. There are sometimes things we know and we may not know. So the things that we know are, the economy, the investment, the defense, and the technology relations. These are the open information that we have. And the countries and of course the leaders, when they interact, they discuss on bilateral issues, they discuss on much deeper issues.
Yeah.
So we can simply, detect from the facial gesture of the two leaders in France and, of course, in Italy, that the relation, that the diplomatic ties are still healthy, and that the Roman Catholic is still very healthy, I can say, to pay visits to such religious institutions. The Roman Catholic Church has been there for millennia of years. So this is very important, and that the Premier did his best, which benefits not a person, not only him, but the nation, and of course the continent of Africa in a wider spectrum, if I dare to say.
Yeah. So it would be very nice if you can just check this video, the press secretary of the office of the Prime Minister, and here is what she had to say.
ብዙ ሐሳቦች ባለፈው ከተነጋገሯቸው የነበሩ ሐሳቦችን የበለጠ ደግሞ አሁን ገምገማዋቸዋል።
In France, Prime Minister Abiy met with President Emmanuel Macron. Both leaders emphasized their commitment to enhancing bilateral relations with a special focus on advancing economic partnerships and defense cooperation. Prime Minister Abiy also noted his interest in France's advancements in artificial intelligence and safety technologies, areas he believes could benefit Ethiopia. The Prime Minister also visited Italy, where he met the Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The two leaders reaffirmed their shared commitment to expanding cooperation in key sectors such as industry, agriculture and investment development. Additionally, he held discussion with Pietro Salini, CEO of the Italian Construction Joint We Build Group, about the company's ongoing involvement in major infrastructure projects in Ethiopia. A notable part of the visit was the Prime Minister's meeting with Pope Leo XIV at the Vatican, further cementing Ethiopia's relationship with the Roman Catholic Church.
ይህን ነገር ልናይባቸው እንችላለን ብዬ ነው ማስበው።
While discussing, of course, bilateral ties, and we mentioned first the Prime Minister's visit to these European nations, to Italy and France, and we're back to Africa, and Ethiopia has different relations with different countries. And aforementioned, of course, before we mentioned that there were other relations. And the other thing we can mention, I think, here is the Ethiopia and Morocco ties. Ethiopia and Morocco had very long ties, by the way, very wonderful tie. And one of the things we can mention discussing Ethiopia and Morocco is the coffee, which is well known in all over the world. And a coffee trade, by the way, there was a forum over the week. It was held in Rabat, Morocco. It was organized by the Embassy of Ethiopia and Casablanca Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Service. In the opening remark, there was at the forum, the Ethiopian ambassador to Morocco, that is Nardos Ayalo, and she highlighted that Ethiopia's unique status at the birthplace of coffee. The name of coffee, by the way, is from Kafa. So we have Kafa and coffee, and in English we call it coffee. Is so close to the name Kafa itself, to the origin of coffee. And it's well known with a high quality, and we call it coffee Arabica. And Morocco is then, of course, introducing this one as well. The Ethiopian ambassador to Morocco, acknowledged the growing appreciation for quality coffee among Moroccan consumers and emergence of sophisticated evolving market. And Ethiopia has been there throughout a long time, by the way, for a long time, even introducing coffee. When you introduce coffee, you're introducing Ethiopia, and you remember the Kaldi, and that's mostly known, the coffee Arabica. And it's really, really nice that Ethiopia is introducing many things, including the origins. When we say Ethiopia is the land of origins, we also meant that there are many origins, including the coffee we have.
That is it.
I know that you're a coffeeer yourself.
When you were mentioning the coffee issues about its origin, the Kafa name, and the Coffee Arabica scientific name as well, I was thinking of this notion that Ethiopia is nominated or given as land of origins. Ethiopia is land of origins, and this is the best example to substantiate whatever is said as Ethiopia's land of origins. To the Morocco experience, the ties between Ethiopia and Morocco has been there for so long. And I remember when I was working for the House of People's Representatives. The Morocco ambassador was, recurrently paying visits to the office of the speaker, so that the relations shall be, heightened and maintained as per the wish and the need of the two nations. That the parliamentarians were invited to pay visits there, and them also were visited or were given chances to visit the Ethiopian side. And the coffee issue, as you said, the president of the Casablanca Chamber of Commerce, he highlighted that the rising demand for the premium, high-quality coffee in the Morocco's major cities, so that Ethiopia is expected, to work on, as it has been engaged on quality issues, so that Morocco is there to receive the exports. That the export destination, one of the export destinations is Morocco, and that should be, maintained and strengthened and should be celebrated. And what Ethiopia did was, heightening that relation, and that is really wonderful.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is your weekly review with me, Brana Taddese, and my colleague Asrat Addisu, and we're talking, of course, about the bilateral ties Ethiopia has with other countries, including the European Union, Italy, France, came back, of course, to Morocco. And now let's just go to Saudi. We're going to another country, and Ethiopia and Saudi have a wonderful, great collaboration. And one of the collaborations we really can mention is what the Saudi Arabian medical team is doing to Ethiopians in a really wonderful way. And this was extended by the health minister, that is Dr. Magdas Daba. And she said, we really thank you for that, especially for the medical team and the government of Saudi Arabia. And this happened, by the way, the Saudi volunteers were here helping, especially at the Tukur Ambassa hospital at Addis Ababa. Some, by the way, mentioned this Tukur Ambassa and changing it to a name as Black Lion, but I don't personally believe that names should be changed. Asrat shouldn't be tax, Burhan shouldn't be light or something else, right? Yeah. So because we love even the name itself, Tukur Ambassa. I don't think there's any way that it should be changed to another way. So they were not to Black Lion, they were to Tukur Ambassa. I'll be very happy if anybody's arguing over this issue. Maybe we'll have another program talking about changing names as well. I don't think it's right. But the good thing here is the Saudi and Ethiopia are really collaborating. The number was about over 26, and they volunteer because of the King Solomon Humanitarian Aid Relief Center was expected to perform surgery, and it happened for over 100 patients in just a single week.
In a single week?
In a single week, yeah.
That's astonishing. This cardiac problem, the cardiac problem is, one of the health, the health problems that has been there for so long. So I remember a couple of years ago, people from India also came here and granted similar medical supports. And that of, by the way, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia geographically are very close. Only the Red Sea exists in between. So they share many historical issues. Even if we trace back the language issues, we can find so many things. We can find so many things.
History has it.
History has it. So in this regard, this is a very important issue because, to send people to Saudi Arabia or somewhere else for cardiac surgeries is very costly. And, when people come here and support the people with that problem, and, that problem gets, minimized, diminished, and the medical problem, solving the medical problem is one of the best, support that a given nation can provide to another nation. So the Saudi Arabia's aspect is, very appreciable.
And it's very close, by the way, when we talk about the Ethiopian-Saudi collaboration. The Ethiopian, of course, Saudi Arabia's ambassador to Ethiopia is a doctor himself, medical doctor, that is Dr. Fahad. And mostly it's really close to the issue we have at hand, and he's been helping there and assisting even in every possible condition. And we really appreciate that. The ambassador has been working there as well. And the Saudi Arabia has been always there helping the Ethiopian team, volunteering. And the number is not even just minimal. 100 is a lot in a week. So they have been helping for over 100 patients in 1 week. And we're expecting even other countries to come and help, and because we can prosper together.
Yeah.
So let's just take this view of Dr. Fahad speaking about the issue we had, especially about the volunteering, and we'll be back.
Today we witness the launching of the case relief open heart surgery and catheterizations medical project in Ethiopia, with the participation of the medical team from the center. We hope that project will be successful.
Our country is very much keen to extend this service wider. Not only in Addis, you can imagine having more and more centers out of Addis is very important. Ethiopia is a very big country, the second largest country in Africa. But also when you see the case disparity and the burden you see in the cardiac illnesses, you see that there are both congenital diseases that are already growing, but there are also cases that we could have preventable type of cases and diseases. We can multiply our efforts because this is going to extend beyond this room, extend beyond just Addis. That is going to extend to the whole entire Ethiopia.
We're back, Asrat, and it's really good that we're talking over different issues. And when we say that Africa should be collaborating, it's not just because we have the day specifically given to the Africa. Because you say we have Africa Day, it doesn't mean that Africans are united, but there should be a very nice collaboration. Every African country has to work to one another. But if you just only give it, like, for example, before a couple of weeks, we had Mother's Day. It's true that we respect mothers, but it doesn't have to be only one day. You respect mothers for a single day, and what about the remaining days? There are 364 or 365 days left, and all the days deserve to be Mother's Day. And Africans should work like that as well. It shouldn't be only once a month or once a year you celebrate it and you forget about it. If you want Africa to be united, you need more days. So it doesn't have to be only Africa Day. We are expecting to have Africa Week, maybe, Africa Month, and of course we're expecting Africa Year as well.
So that's great. And that was the major idea behind the Africa Day. If you look at the theme of the Africa Day, it's just was, targeted toward this solidifying the solidarity of the African nations and the people of not only Africa, but people of African descent, wherever they live, they should come all together with a mindset of being an African. So the Africa Day, as you said, is an annual celebration and the commemoration of the founding of the African unity in May 25 of 1963. Things were not out of the blue. It has never been an overnight issue. So you can't only trace back the 20th century. If you trace back the history of the 19th century, people like Marcus Garvey were behind the idea of Pan-Africanism. And the Pan-Africanism was concocting there, not only in the land of Africa, but in Caribbean regions and in the places where in the places the black people live. So that the blacks could stand for themselves and emancipate themselves from the yoke of colonialism and from any oppression, from any oppression that they have been enduring for so long. So this struggle has come into effect, and most importantly, in the beginning of the second half of the 20th century, African countries started to emancipate themselves from the yoke of colonialism. And, before founding the African unity, there were two important meetings conducted. I remember, you know very well, that the Casablanca group was not in favor of, founding the African unity on that time. And the other group, the Monrovia group, was in favor of founding this African unity. And people like Jomo Kenyatta, Kwame Osagie Nkrumah, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and
King
the
Haile
others,
Selassie.
others were spearheaded by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, came to Ethiopia and gathered here in Ethiopia, and they founded the African unity. That day has come down in history as a celebration of the founding of the African unity, May 25. Each and every year, Africans celebrate May 25 as their day, wherever they are, because of the founding of the African unity. So these founding fathers were there not only to liberate Africa from the yoke of colonialism, but to liberate Africans from all sorts of, awkward issues that tie their hands back and down to earth. So, this year reparations were there asked, justice, freedom. I mean, freedom in its complete sense grows. Economic freedom, mental freedom, everything. Not only, being free from any colonial act, but neo-colonialism is still hanging out there. So Africa should be emancipated fully, and it should have its own say. This is the idea behind the people who commemorated the African unity, the founding day of the African unity here in Addis Ababa and elsewhere. If you look at the reportings here and there, South Africa celebrated the day, and Namibia celebrated the day. Of course, the Namibian president is chairperson of the African Union of the 2025. He delivered his speech online. I was there on the celebration. And others, like the Ghanaian president, Dramani Mahama, he also said his part. And of course, the chairperson of the African Union, the African Union Commission, Mohammed Ali Yusuf, has made an important speech. And everybody has tried to contribute his or her part. And the people to whom Addis Media Network conducted exclusive interviews also elaborated, explained their part as this is a milestone that the great leaders, the founding fathers, have given the batons to us, and we should be able to deliver the batons to the next generation. So that you earlier mentioned this Africa Day should not only be Africa Day. It shouldn't be nominal. It should be something down to earth. So to make this thing true, the emancipation and the justice for Africa true, what the African Union Commission has been trying to do was, having major goals and, sustainable development goals and other continental projects like African Continental Free Trade Area and, this, the 2063 agenda, Agenda 2063. So it has been, and this year's, the 2025's Africa Day has been monumental, and it was celebrated here in Addis Ababa in a very special way. And I remember I read somewhere that people in Ireland, in Dublin, about 12,000 people, not only people of Africa and African descent, but whites were also there celebrating the Africa Day. It has become a great day.
It has to be celebrated by everyone. Because everybody came from Africa, as we've been talking about it. And if we want the Africa we want, we desire to have Africa in a very unique way. The collaboration has to be there. The help has to be there, because we have all the resources. And one day, I think everyone in every corner of the world will celebrate Africa Day. But the question now is, what do Africans want? That will be answered shortly, hopefully, because every African is working towards it. Talking about the Africa Day, these were the videos we got, of course, over the week, and we'll just take a watch and we'll be back.
Commemorating this 62nd Africa Day is also to reaffirm our hope that Africa will become the Africa we want, will become the place we want it to be. Africa will be the place where our young people have access to quality education. Africa will be the place where we have business opportunities, employment for the young people, and where we have a culture of respect of human rights for all Africans, and where every African's life matter, and where we will have a vegan's silence for us to witness peace in all the places of Africa where we are having a lot of conflict actually. So yeah, this is my hope. This is my hope. It's true that we still have a lot of challenges in Africa. We have terrorist attacks in the Sahel region and in the Lake Chad Basin. We have also conflict in Sudan, where a lot of human rights violations, displacement are happening, and people are losing everything they have. They are losing their hope. We have conflict in other places of Africa, and our hope is that our leaders will really work towards the Africa we want. We really focus all our policies, all our strategies in bringing peace back in our Africa by really building confidence with the people, and also allowing African people to participate in the state building in every aspect of our life, and ensuring that we don't have children that are taking school under trees in some villages, that we have good governance all over Africa, that we stop corruption that are taking away valuable resources that are supposed to contribute to build social services that will respond to the need of Africans, so that African young people don't have to flee away from Africa, because everybody knows Africa is rich. Our soil is rich. We have resources. So why should we be the one to be ashamed of Africa, or should we be the one to flee out of our country, to go somewhere to look for a wellness that we can have here?
Its membership to the G20 is not only a well-deserved participation, but it is indeed a global recognition of the importance of Africa. There is no doubt that Africa's potential, mineral resources, arable lands, and industrial capacity are to be accounted for. It is our responsibility as Africans to protect these resources for the sake of present and future generations. It is our member countries' primary duty to develop a viable value chain on the continent through value addition transformation process. Our outstanding African free trade area is the market destined to absorb African goods. We all know that the international geopolitics is conducted at the expense of our continent. Influential powers do not give a proper attention to our continent's ambitions. It is up to us Africans to assert the values, reaffirm our convictions, and gain respect of all nations by our capacity to weigh on global arena. Pan-Africanism was built by our forefathers, not only on the basis of legitimate aspirations of our peoples, but more broadly on a number of strategic goals that are the reflection of critical thinking for the future of this continent and its peoples.
Africa has 60% of arable land, and yet we are still importing, import bill of food of $35 billion every year. And if nothing is done, if we don't change our narrative, we will import $110 billion. We need to change this narrative.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is your weekly review with me, Burhanat Addis, and my colleague Asrat Addisin. And over the week, there were many issues, and one of the issues we can have, of course, is about visitors, talking about Addis Ababa. And many say that repeatedly, visitors are really impressed by the change, development happening around in Addis Ababa, and they're really impressed by Addis Ababa's development and modernization. And this is, of course, leveling up the capital among the top cities, not only in Africa, in the world. And this is according to the interview we had. AMN Plus had an interview to Stacey Newman and, of course, Joanna Truchon. And they're actresses from London, and they said that they're really impressed by the current state of Addis Ababa and comparing it to their own home city, that is London. And Joanna Truchon's Addis Ababa's cleanliness is really beyond her expectation.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. So whenever you talk, I tried to talk to some people there in the Africa Day commemoration, and they just reflected similar ideas to the people that you were mentioning. So it's true that whenever people there in Europe, before visiting Africa, they think of Africa as a continent full of cottages, huts, and shanty in the slums. So is that true in reality? When they come to Africa and they see the opposite, they get astonished. And some people who visited places like Addis Ababa years ago, and when they visit recently, they get astonished because of the changes. You know, the development of Addis Ababa is a kind of radical transformation. You know, it's not something that looks glittering, that it's not simply for the purpose of glittering, but it's a total kind of transformation to a modernization level, to that of the international standardization. So Addis Ababa has been there planning to convert the city into the smart city level. And yes, Addis is turning to be a smart city. That is, you know, appreciated. But even we got a kind of prize. I remember in South Korea, Seoul, the mayor was represented by someone else, and we got that prize. That is an outcome of hard work, and of course, a smart work. So it's not something that comes out of nowhere, but it is a result of the hard work, determination, and the commitment of the people and the leadership.
And really nice that these visitors said Addis and its historical cultural heritage are must-see treasures. By the way, these are not only the people who said about the impression, the admiration of Addis Ababa, including the member of Mombasa's County Executive Committee from Kenya, expressed their admiration about the corridor project in Addis Ababa in terms of designing and job creation. So let's just take a listen and watch the next video, and you will be back. Of course, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is your weekly review.
It's my first time here, so we arrived yesterday afternoon, and unfortunately we're leaving tomorrow morning, so it's a very short trip. So I didn't really have any expectations. I knew there was a lot of history here, so definitely coming to the museum was on my list to see Lucy specifically. But we've been to this morning to Entoto Park. Yesterday we did like a long walk around there. We saw the church and everything. Last night we went to Fendika, which was amazing. So the music's insane. Had Tibbs for the first time, which was delicious. We'll definitely be having it again. And then after here, we're going to see the cathedral, see some other museums and things, and yeah, just explore the city. So we have a whole day of walking and just exploring. And everyone's very friendly, very approachable. So yeah, we're having a very good time so far. The weather, though, yeah, lots of thunderstorms. Yeah,
it's my first time. I think Addis has really impressed me so far. I think it's very clean. It's modern, people are lovely, and there is so much culture. Yesterday we went to listen to some live music, you know, the Fendika. yeah, that was incredible. And today I've just been exploring around.
Everyone's very friendly. Everyone wants to help. Is approachable. So we feel very safe here as well. We're two females travelling, but we feel very safe. There's a lot of police about, which I think adds to the feeling of safety. And just the city itself, yeah, it's a very populated, dense city. But what we did notice, it's very clean. Like very clean. The roads, the sidewalks, like there's no graffiti or rubbish. Like in England, obviously we have lots of graffiti, rubbish and stuff, but it's a very clean city. And the fact that you have the Entoto Park, it's great, like it's so peaceful. So you know, it's very close to the city, it's a nice comparison. So you're very lucky to have that. And there's a lot of construction work going on, we noticed that as well.
I didn't expect it to be so clean, it's amazing. All the streets, there's no rubbish, and it's just really impressive. Yeah, it actually looks better than some streets in London. It's a very good way of transport because of the green and like obviously reducing the carbon footprint, and also Addis is so spread out. So I think it being so spread out, it's important to get there from A to B, and also there's a lot of traffic. So I think that's a brilliant initiative, and we did see some cycling lanes yesterday. And we even thought about getting maybe an e-bike.
And I think it's a good thing that we are doing with even improving development, because I also know about the development corridor and the kind of jobs that it's bringing. I think this is what cities are missing in terms of designing programs that are also have the economic aspect and taking care of the unemployment issue, which is a thorny issue across the continent.
Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review with me, Burhan Taddasa, and my colleague Asrat Taddasa is here. And over the week, one of the issues we saw, of course, was the Prime Minister's visit to the space science. And Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited the space science in saying that the country, Ethiopia, has laid a solid foundation in advancing space science and geospatial institution.
You see, what astonishes me always is the Premier is a tech-pro person. Naturally, he tends to, is inspired with the technological aspect.
Right.
So that this Space Science and the Geospatial Institute has got its life after the reform government of the Ethiopian state, I can say. So the solid foundation, as he said, was laid by advancing this institute. So that the advancement of the institute, when you advance an institute, you do so many things inside. There are things that we may not, or we couldn't even mention here. There are so many intricacies, complications, and those things, geospatial is something, a huge aspect, and the space is more than that, a huge...
Extraordinary.
So that an institute totally devoted for the study and the engagement in the space science and the geospatial issues is a big institute, and the government has laid foundations to solidify that foundation for the institute. And his visit is remarkable because he tried to see, to deduct the analysis being carried out there in the institute. That's it.
That's very nice. And of course, talking about the space science visit, here is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, and this is what he had to say.
Space science እና ጂኦስፓሻል በጣም ጥሩ ደረጃ ነው ያሉት ፋውንዴሽን ተጥሏል።
Space science and geospatial is in good status. We have created foundation in this regard. As we have witnessed today, the institute is conducting study on the exact place where underground water is located. They have identified underground water locations including in cities and towns. In the past 15 years, Ethiopian lakes are increasing volumes. The Geospatial Institute, therefore, identifies how these lakes increase in volume. It also studies the soil nature, including which soil is fertile for agriculture and which is not. They play the pivotal role in supplying automated information for the government. The institute's role is also remarkable in GERD. The move that the space science is in is quite promising. Especially the moves we witnessed in human capital development are truly remarkable. The institute offers education, higher institutions in master's and PhD levels. On the other hand, it trains youngsters with recognizable talents and creativity in summer camps. This is a huge step. If they sustain and strengthen those moves, there will be a chance of creating business in space. Dear viewers, you're watching Addis Media Network, and this is our weekly review. And a very final point will be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefing over the week. So over the week, this was Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefing, and in this briefing, there were local and international journalists invited. And spokesperson of Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Nebiat Getachew, emphasized specifically with the rising prominence of Addis Ababa as a key destination for international conference and diplomatic engagements. The spokesperson of Foreign Minister of Affairs delivered this briefing to the journalists, the current and international issues, of course. And the issues mentioned right there were like that of ETEX 2025 and the ILO Africa Regional Meeting, the ID4 Africa Conference, and 2 IGAD meetings, and the African Insurance Organization Conference, and the Ethiopian Finance Forum. And because of the time we have, it would be very nice just if we can just take a listen of the spokesperson of the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we'll be back. And here is what he had to say.
ከተማችን አዲስ አበባ የዲፕሎማሲ መዲና ብቻ ሳትሆን
Over the past few weeks, Addis Ababa has successfully hosted a series of high-profile events and meetings, further solidifying its reputation as a major diplomatic hub, not only for Africa but also on the global stage. These conferences attracted diverse international participants, including policymakers, business leaders, and development partners. To the city's strategic importance, robust infrastructure, and long-standing legacy as a diplomatic capital of Africa, home to institutions such as the African Union, Ethiopia remains committed to creating an enabling environment that fosters international cooperation, positioning Addis Ababa as a welcoming and reliable host for global events.
Asrat, it's been a wonderful time talking to you. We had, of course, topics to talk on, including the bilateral ties. We mentioned Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's recent visit to some of the European nations like that of Italy and France, and talking about other bilateral tie, that is Ethiopia and Morocco. And we moved to Saudi, and we talked about the Ethiopian-Saudi collaboration. And finally, we talked about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefing, and that is really highly appreciated. And I really want to say thank you for coming and discussing over the issues we had at hand.
Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah. Dear viewers, you've been watching, of course, Addis Media Network's weekly review with me, Burhanat Adresa, and this is all we have for this week. And I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.